Alright guys, so I'm going to try and kick this project back into gear again. There's a lot of things that have been going on and I haven't really done anything in 6 months, and you might not actually recognize this, or by a matter of fact that. Like I said, I moved. This is my new place. Triple monitors and desk here. TV with Plex and Plex through the Xbox, and I have a Raspberry Pi in the back running Kali. Also pull files off my server. Then I got a variety of like 9 or 10 various game consoles and a CRT TV, so I mean, it's alright. I'm just renting a room over by the university, because university area is expensive. Anyway, so, since last update, I actually picked up server motherboard, fuse Xeon, some RAM for it, some more RAM is in the mail, a couple CPUs and heat sinks, and then most of these cards you should recognize, but basically, I was thinking, you know what, I'll get an ATX motherboard with Xeon, or Intel i5, i7, maybe AMD Ryzen. But really, I don't have a lot of cash right now. I'm going to university in the fall and don't have a lot of money in general. So, I pulled my motherboard out of my system because I usually have it in this 4U rack mount server here. You know, you got your hard drives and your fans up front. And then I just kind of set it on top of the wood. This is the piece of wood. This is 13 by 13 inches, so this is the full size, not the shelf I was going to mount it on. But it fits. And there's a little bit of space on either side, and you know, like, if I line it up, that gives me a 1-inch gap, which should be enough to run cables, hopefully. If I figure out where's the best place to put that gap, or maybe center it. But if I put this guy in here, and then have stuff stick out the back a little bit, since there's going to be that bump, I can just use this, and I think that'll work out pretty good. So just give you a bit of a rundown. This is a dual socket 1366 motherboards. I believe they are... You know what, I'll have to put it in the notes and in the post, but these are dual Xeons here. Then these guys are the Hyper T4, and one issue I ran into is that the heat sinks that were with this motherboard, they were too small. Frankly, no fans, they were too small. The back plate is also the back plate that holds down the retention socket thing. So I had to remove the socket retention plate. So the CPUs are just sitting there with the T4s on top, which really isn't all that great. And if they tilt, well, like, if they tilt, well, like, these are actually touching the top panel. So if I try and remove the top panel, it nudges these enough that the CPUs disconnect from their sockets enough that the system will crash. So I have to turn it off before I remove the panel, because these are just a slight fraction of a millimeter too tall. But yeah, I currently have 16 gigs in here in a 4x4 gig configuration, and I know that's not the optimal. It's supposed to be 3 sticks per CPU, or 6, or 9, but I didn't think that right away, so I ended up with that. I have another 4 sticks of 4 gigs, which still won't align quite right. It'll be 4 sticks per CPU. I might just put in 2 sticks, but that's cutting it a little close. I'm already... So, the other thing is there's the USB key here somewhere. There it is. That SanDisk there is actually running Unraid on this. Like in the 2 gamers, 7 gamers, 10 gamers, 1 CPU. So basically I have Unraid handling my drives and my NAS stuff. And they're also taking, I believe, a core and a thread on each CPU. These are both 4-core, 8-thread CPUs. So the VM has 6 cores and 6 threads and 12 gigs of RAM. And the 1070 and the capture card and the USB card. This guy down here is the graphics card for Unraid to grab onto, because for some reason it doesn't like grabbing onto the motherboard GPU, and instead it grabs onto the 1070, so I can't use it with my VM. But anyway, yeah, the other problem is the heatsink is a little too big, as you can see here, and it actually blocks access to this top PCIe slot. And all of the rest of them are full. And like even this guy, there's a slot missing on the second slot. So like if I pop out the 1070 here, You can see there's only one slot, and the other thing is all of these are only PCIe 8X slots. None of these are 16X slots, so everything runs fine in it though, and that GPU, and I guess this GPU, which really isn't doing anything, run just fine in 8X slots, and they have the back cut out by factory, so I didn't have to do anything there, so that's alright. But yeah, I mean, I'm thinking about removing Unraid just because on this system, certain things, I'm considering doing a few things. But anyway, as you can see, yes, I'm doing this on carpet. But there we go. As you can see, this guy's blocked. This guy's the GPU for Unraid. This guy's the HDMI. This guy's the GPU for the system. And this guy's the USB card. So it's full. I do have 6 RAM slots on here, but they're all SATA 2. So they're not super RAM slots. SATA slots. SATA 2 SATA slots for drives and stuff. Currently in this system, I have 3 2 terabyte drives and a 4th one that died, but I haven't pulled out yet. What I'm thinking about doing is I have another 2 terabyte drive to throw in there, and 2 500 gigs. What I'm thinking about potentially doing is getting rid of Unraid, because the problem is, VMs running off of what is effectively a RAID 5 style storage is slow, especially when you have network devices accessing the storage. It is slow. So there is, like, in the X-Gamer's one CPU, he was using SSD cache drives and putting the VMs on the cache. So if you were pulling files off of the network storage, and it wouldn't be touching the same drives as the VMs were on, and they were on SSDs, which works great. But when you're just on basically a RAID 5 array for both your network and your cache, I was getting speeds about 1/3 to 1/4 the normal speeds of just a single drive. So, well, it does work great. I'm thinking about reconfiguring it with 4 2 terabyte drives in a RAID 5, and then 2 500 gig drives in a RAID 0 backed up to the 2 terabyte drives, so that faster performance, and then just running Windows 7 or 10, because the Home and Pro versions do support 2 physical CPUs. They just don't support 3 or 4, from what I have read. Anyway, yeah, we're up to 8 minutes here, so yes, I'm thinking about getting back into this. I might have to do some modifications to the plan, figure out how things work, because I was going to use, I don't know if it might have been this board, but either way, it's a board this size, which is the same, but, you know, quite a bit skinnier. I might be able to still use the board and just do something tweaking, but I don't know. I do hope to actually finish this, and, you know, that LAN party in November is still happening one way or another, so if I could bring it, that'd be awesome. But yeah, currently everything is loaded into this. I'm going to pause the recording and then redo it. I'm not going to do any editing, but I can pause and start up in a minute, show you back in the system.